here, I've never caught a crappie.
Really?
I've caught them from where I'm going to start all the way to there. One half of the 40% of the lake I catch a crappie. The others I never caught a crappie in. You know, when you start looking for fish, you got side imaging to see these fish suspended off the weed line. We know they're in the weeds. We know they could be high in the weeds. They could be just packed in pretty close. You look for bait off of the edge of the weed line. Look at this. Look at this patch of fish right here.
That's classic crappies right there. Classic.
Yeah, that's a bunch of them sitting right there. So you're looking at mark. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 fish right there. Yeah, you know, but you see these little, they're in pods like that. Other pods down here, I've seen a lot of fish in 4 to 7.
All right, we are on a mission for big crappies. Al came into my office yesterday and said, yeah, I was out walleye fishing, and on these big walleye baits, hair jigs and boot tails, I ended up catching one of the biggest crappies I've caught in Minnesota in years. I caught like 5 other ones, so we gotta go check it out. Let's go actually fish for them. So if there's more than one there, I think we're gonna end up getting some big crappies today. It should be awesome. Summertime crappies.
Closed captioning is provided by Smooth Moves, adjustable boat seat suspensions for a smoother ride.
Got one here, I don't know what it is. Could be one, Jer.
You got one?
Yeah, oh, bad, crappie.
First cast, all right.
We're on the board.
That's a nice one too.
We're on the board.
Real nice fish. Way to go.
It's a healthy lake, these fish got shoulders in it.
That was a really nice fish, yeah.
I was telling Jer, I got my biggest crappie in Minnesota, maybe ever. Out here a few days ago, 15 1/4. He's really, says we ought to go try for him. We're warming up, we're warming up here.
You think you wanted that little jig in plastic? Right now, how Al and I are fishing is we're fishing with jigs. Of course, one of the greatest fish catching lures of all time. And it's probably the most effective tool there is for targeting crappies in weed beds. And of course, we've been a big fan of hard baits for a number of years. You got another one? Oh, he's doubled up. Oof. But we're also finding fishing through cover like this, you pretty much got to fish with a jig. This stuff is too tough for fishing with crankbaits. I'm gonna get this guy back and we'll go through some of the technique. So the idea with this jig swimming technique is, ooh, oh, I had him. They're way piled up there, is really understanding where the jig is in the water column. Now crappies, you always want to be, oh, got that one, above them. Boy, that's a pot of them. When you get into crappies, it's amazing how technology has changed. Back in the day, we'd be drifting all over here and they can be so tight in these schools. It's really unbelievable how packed up they can be. Oh, we're doubled up. Al's got a big one.
Yeah,
I've got a really nice one.
I got a bigger one.
But you get that cast right and it's just one after the other after the other.
This one thinks he's a bass.
Yeah, this hot water, they're going crazy.
They're growing up a little bit more, Jer.
Nice fish.
You know, this is one of these lakes that is really fertile. It's got a lot of really good crappies in it, but you can look at the shoulders on that fish. A lot of times you get them this size, you look at them, they're paper thin. You can see they're carrying weight. These are good, healthy populations of nice crappies. Everybody likes catching crappies, Jer.
Everybody likes catching crappies.
It's a good break from you from catching muskies last night to crappies today.
Another one.
This segment is brought to you by Sunset Country, Ontario, Canada. You gotta come visit.
That is a great crappie anywhere you go. Just a beautiful, like Al said, thick fish. So I'm gonna cast out again and show you the technique and how you jig fish. So what I've got right now, this is a BMC Neon Moon Eye in a 1/16 of an ounce. For summertime crappies, that 1/16 is a really sweet spot. Right now, Al and I are fishing with plastics. This is that Big Bite Kamikaze Swimming, and I really like this bait. It's got these little kickers. You can fish it vertically, like I have here, or if you want to slow the presentation down, you can flip it horizontally and the bait falls really slow, but you get that kick from those tails. And we're fishing a little dirtier water, so that vibration and that profile really seems to help. So here's what we do. We're gonna cast it out, and preferably you want to be down, casting downwind. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of managing the slack in my line. So I'm pulling, reeling it up, and we're kind of pulling, and we're just kind of letting that bait just hover. Oop, there was one right above the fish. Now if I'm too low, my jig is gonna be too low. If I'm too high, the wind catches it. So you're kind of at that 45 to the water and just swimming that baby right along.
Panfish. Oh, nicer one, way nicer.
What, the net? Should I net this one?
Yeah, it's right on the border, bub. Right on the border.
Let me grab the little.
No, I got her. Ah!
Oh.
I'm pushing it, flipping her. I was pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah. Pretty gold on it.
Yeah. Everybody loves catching crappies. Everybody does. And there's so many different ways to catch them. And there's a real growth, I guess the word for growth or interest, in fishing for crappies with artificials in the last 5-6 years. Lots of anglers are tuning into how deadly artificials, plastics and small hard baits, and how to fish them in the different conditions. And we've just learned in so many cases, you don't need live bait.
Just felt that cover, Al, and then boom, there he was. There he was. It's kind of an art. I've taken people out to do this a number of times when you're swimming these jigs, and a lot of times you're like, oh, people tend to struggle a little bit. Geez, this might be a horse. Getting the right cadence down. And the biggest mistake I see people make is fishing too deep. So you really want to make sure, geez, Al, I need the net for this sucker. This is a giant one.
You're starting to get there, Jer.
This is a giant one.
Starting to get like the kind I told you we had. Good thing I brought my crappie net. Swing them this way. It's always good when you gotta dig the net out.
Jeez, look at the size of this Kong, huh? Oh man, look at that giant fish. And like I was saying, it can be kind of tricky getting the cadence of how fast that jig is falling. Let me get this one back and I'll explain to you why you want to be higher in the water column and how to manage where the jig is in the water column. Whew, beautiful crappie. All right, so here's the best way I can explain how to figure out where the bait is in the water column. First thing, throw the bait next to the boat, let it fall on slack line, and see how much time it takes to fall a foot. So get an idea of how fast the bait falls. And know that when you're casting, there's gonna be a little more drag on the line and in the water, so it's gonna fall slightly slower the further you are away from the boat. So in this case, we're throwing up into about 6 to 8 feet of water, and I'm counting the bait down to about 2, because this is falling at about a foot a second, and then I'm just pulling it. And if I feel that I'm making contact with the weeds, I'll kind of lift the rod, shake it a little bit, and then it's just kind of pulling. So that bait is basically just kind of penduluming back, nice and slow, and it's, you know, about 3-4 feet down over 6-8 feet of water. And as soon as I feel I'm making contact with the weeds, I'm raising my rod tip, lifting it up again. The biggest mistake is if you get the bait too low and it's in the cover, you're just not going to be catching fish. And a lot of times you'll know if you're fishing too low in areas that have crappies. You might end up starting catching rock bass and other bottom dwelling fish. So you just want to make sure that you're much higher in the water column.
It's not quite. You're right on the bubble. I got a flipper. I can get her in.
Okay.
Yeah, she was just a flipper. She tricked me. Well, they got such weight on. Look at the shoulders on them.
They're not really long fish, but they're actually big
real
fish,
healthy.
You know? Yeah,
they're really healthy. Look at it. Yeah, I got a few more on this bait yet. That's the beauty of fishing plastic. How many fish can you get on one bait? Dozen, 15, 20?
There's one. Nice. It's fun. You just feel that little tick, little tick, and it's nice to have good equipment for this program. You'll notice Al and I, neither one of us are fishing with what would be traditional panfish stuff like, geez, this is another tank, ultralight stuff. We're fishing with rods that are specifically designed for panfish. I have the new panfish series that St. Croix just came out here with, and I'll explain to you what makes this stick so darn good. I mean, look at that. You think they're hungry? Huh? I'd say they're very, very hungry. Hungry hippos.
They like to eat when you're throwing the right thing.
You don't have all bluebird flat calm days.
Just a perfect eating size fish. See, that's what I'm talking about, these die with drag. This boat is rigged up about as nice.
Easy to use, and it flat out works.
It's a must-have when you're talking about big waves. Well, these trout are so darn tough.
This bait is legendary.
Okay, so the rod that I'm fishing with, this is a big deal in feeling sensitivity. I've got St. Croix's Panfish series here. This is their 7'3" medium light extra fast. So this is a all new design. If you fish with their Panfish series, you know it's great, but they've done some things with the material to make it an even better product than the previous generation. And that helps a lot with this style of fishing. When you're fishing slack line or very loose line, you're able to pick up those bites. You can feel the line jump. The other thing, now this might not seem like a really big deal to a lot of people, but look at the feet on the guides of this rod. See how far they are away from the blank? Now we're fishing a really lightweight braid, nano braid, and when this gets wet, if the feet get too close, it can actually it has friction on the blank. The line can have friction on the blank, so it's a big deal for throwing little baits further. So all in all, this rod is just designed perfectly. And you'll notice that extra fast tip, so I can drag this, you feel that little tick, boom, I'm tight on the fish. It's an absolutely deadly, deadly rod for doing this style of fishing.
You got, I'm using your rod here. Is that 4-pound floral on this? That's with the nano braid?
6 pounds, 6 and 6.
6 pounds, okay. They tighten up pretty good too, boy. You get a lot of fish in a very small, compact area, and when they're biting like this on, you know, you get that spot, you go boom, 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 you catch 3, 4, 5 fish right away.
Kind of horsing them in because we're fishing with a little bit heavier line. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the line we're using. It's amazing, but I want to talk about the reel that we've got on here. This is the Daiwa Revros LT, and it's a 1000 size reel. This is a great pairing for this particular rod that I've got here. And with all the Daiwa reels, they're spinning stuff. It is incredible. I remember when this Revros LT came out at ICAST and I picked it up and I listened to this drag. I went, oh man, this must be one of Daiwa's new high-end, like $500 reels they're coming out with. Nope, it's a 1/10 of that cost. You cannot believe the quality that they pack into this Revros LT, and the drag system is the most amazing thing about it. And in this 1000 size, what's great about it, you can use this for ice fishing too. It's got a machined aluminum handle, but also check out the handle here. It folds in so you can tuck that into your rod tube when you're going ice fishing. It's a great size for walleye in the winter, but also I love that 1000 size for managing your line for summertime panfish. It's really a great, great reel.
Yeah, it's a middle of the day. Little overcast today, a little bit of wind, ideal for fishing. Yeah, you know, these weed line crappies. Where we fish up north here in these natural lakes, the crappie summertime bite revolves totally around the first drop off in the weed line. Some lakes that could be 6 feet of water, some lakes it could be 10 feet of water, some lakes it could be 12, 15 feet of water. But they spend all their time in the summer in and around the weeds. Yeah, you know, low light conditions in that, they'll come up in the weeds. Later in the evening, they'll go down and go out in the basin. Throughout the day, like we're here now, the ideal weed patches are somewhat sparse where the fish can navigate and hunt through there, and you can fish over, around, and through. It just opens up the strike zone for a bunch of fish that are sitting. I don't know how many fish we're casting. It might be 100 fish. I don't know. Then when we move down the weed line, you can get a whole bunch more. But there's plenty of fish to be had in the daytime, but the density of the weed, the depth of the weeds, all of these come into play. The wind is a plus. The wind is a real plus. You don't want it real windy. In fact, it's about ideal for us here now. Just enough to break it, be comfortable, get the wind to your back. You know, take that Minn Kota. You spot lock on a school of fish like this, and you sit here and go boom, 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 boom.
Oh, there's a nice one. Man. As soon as I say move, isn't that how it always goes? You go to bust your spot lock position and bam, there's one. Bam, there's one. Keep them nice and low. There we go. Another great, great crappie. I mean, every single one of these things is just pounded. You can see, like, you just don't need bait fishing crappies. Now, Al is the ultimate purist in not fishing with live bait. I fish with live bait for muskies, for walleyes, for bluegills, but with crappies, other than the exception of some really tough ice fishing bites in like February, I never fish with live bait. The more we fish these fish, the more we realize they are so aggressive. Plastics is about the most finesse fishing that you do with crappies. I catch crappies on top waters. I catch them on little crankbaits. I catch them on lipless crankbaits. I catch them on jerk baits. They're really an aggressive fish, and we're learning more and more and more how much more aggressive these fish are than we previously thought. You had to sit a little waxworm on top of them or a crappie minnow on top of them. Of course it works, but it's slow. And when you can get bit every single cast on plastics or a hard bait, something like that, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Oh, look at that.
You got a good attitude. You're not a bad fish.
That's a great fish.
Take you all day long. You know, we're not keeping any fish today because we've been fishing pretty regular and we're not hurting. We're not hurting for fish. But you know, oftentimes when we're talking about panfish and management, you know, like in crappies where we live, you get those fish, you get any of those 12 inches or above, we encourage you to release them. The eating fish, eat those, give or take those 10 inchers, take them home, eat them, they're perfect. Yeah, you know, protect those bigger fish. They're like gold, especially up in our part of the world where the growth rate is just a little bit longer than you guys that live down south. You can afford to keep a whole bunch of those real big crappies and you have no problem.
You got the spot back there.
Whoa, whoa. They're right under the bait. What you're looking at here is a high pot of bait and you see 3, 4, 5 of them big crappies right underneath them. Right underneath them. That's what we're fishing through.
So that was on a number 8 Shad Rap.
Your style of boat control is really key.
One that was there from the very beginning.
You want to be able to see in the water. The adventure begins.
We are loaded for bear. We got
You know,
bites.
there's so many different ways to fish for walleye. Dependability and efficiency.
Simple, fast, and easy.
The best rods on the planet.
Oh, that is a really...
Come here,
we almost
baby.
had a double. Got weeds though. We got weeds though.
Look at that. You know, because of COVID, our industry, the sport fishing industry, has had what they estimate is 8 million new anglers. I gotta change plastic. You may be one of them. And what we're talking about in the information you're sharing, if this is the first time you're into fishing, you might not have any old bad habits. Yet that I have to have minnows, I have to have this, I have to do that. So you're new to angling. What we're talking about with these artificials for crappies, it is absolutely deadly. The same thing with hard baits and that. You gotta give them a try. And the biggest mistake that we see new anglers coming into the sport of crappie fishing, and even a lot of seasoned people, is fishing too heavy of equipment.
You know, everybody at our office is just obsessed with fishing. So we go through a lot of phases where you might be into, you know, everybody's got their favorite, of course, but learning about maybe it's catfish, maybe it's sturgeon, maybe it's some oddball deal. But I've fished crappies my whole life, but the last few years, I've really come to enjoy it a lot more and spend a lot more time fishing them all season long. And in doing so, I've been watching a lot of different YouTube videos about guys down south fishing with a lot of big, you know, in those tournaments, and they're fishing with a lot of bigger baits. And I kind of had in my head, well, you know, that's down south where they get 2, 3, you know, fish even up to 4-pound crappies in some cases, but a lot of 2s and up to 3-pound fish. But when I've started fishing with bigger baits up here, I've realized that the crappies up here will even eat big baits like that. So don't think you've got to fish with little, you know, 1/2 ounce, 1 inch style baits, like, or not 1/2 ounce, 1/2 inch or 1 inch style baits. In the spring, I'll catch them on number 8 X wraps. Al was just out here the other day. He was catching them on 4-inch minnows. I mean, they will really eat big stuff. They've got a big mouth. They can be aggressive. So oftentimes just don't be afraid to experiment with a little bigger stuff, because crappies really are an aggressive fish, especially in this warm water. They can really bite big stuff.
Top of the cast, way up there.
Way up there?
Yeah, way up on top.
Ooh, big one. Nice.
Give you an idea what fishing with artificials can be like when you get tuned into it. Get confidence in it. Get confidence in it. Confidence is one of the magic things in fishing. And how do you get confidence? You got to go try something and you got to get bit on it. for any kind of fish. Crappies, muskies, smallmouth, don't make no difference. You know, last year I did a closing on this little booklet titled Let's Talk, Sign God by Gordon McGee. In your quiet moments, I know you think about me. That's from God. This booklet is talking about how he is constantly trying to touch your life through people, circumstances of life, situations, good and bad. He's there for you. And it is such a simple read. I loved it, and we had a great response to it. So Gordon gives me a call, and he says, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to give this book away free to anybody that wants it. All you have to do is mail your mailing address, email your mailing address to Let's Talk, Sign God @gmail.com. Again, that's Let's Talk, Sign God @gmail.com. Gordon will take this book, put it in an envelope, and mail it right directly back to you. Nothing else. There's going to be no other things in here, no other sales things to upsell, any, none of that. He's giving it to you free. And if you haven't read it, I strongly suggest you read it. I guarantee you, you will be blessed by it. And it is such a simple read, but quite amazing. It very well could change your life. And it's free, because the information in here, it's priceless. Hey, from all of us here at The Edge, you have a great fishing season. We'll see you on the water.